Okay, everybody, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from the world today. Welcome to the next MECI Alliance seminar series. It's my great pleasure today to introduce Doctors Ricciardi and Edelman. At MIT, whether you're doing human subjects research or being asked to participate in human subjects research, the Clinical Research Center at MIT is a vital infrastructure that enables all of the exciting things that we do at MIT in the area of human subjects research. And it's being revitalized and renewed and refreshed, undergoing some amazing renovations and enabling the capabilities that the MIT community and the collaborators with the MIT community demands. So with that, I'd like to introduce Dr. Kathy Ricciardi and Dr. Elazer Edelman, who will tell us a little bit about the Clinical Research Center, the resources that are available, and I'm sure we'll be extending an invitation to work together to make use of the phenomenal resources that we now have at our disposal at MIT. Kathy, Elazer, thank you very much for your time today. I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Anthony. I'm Elazer Edelman. Kathy?
Kathy Ricciardi, nice to see you all.
And together with Dr. Anthony, we're the leadership of MIT's Clinical Research Center, soon to be the Center for Translational and Clinical Research. And if we could share a screen and start with our slides. So MIT has had a research center since 1962, a clinical research center since 1962. It is one of only 2 institutions across the United States with a federally funded research center that is not in a hospital. And it represented a great legacy of human research into human sciences over the past 60 years. Some of that had dropped off when MIT downgraded its infirmary to a clinic almost 30 years ago. But in the last 20 years, human research at MIT has grown exponentially. What hasn't grown until now is the infrastructure to support that change. Now, there's a few things that have occurred that are really important. In January of 2019, which is now 2 years ago, the Common Rule, which is the confluence of 17 federal sets of regulations governing clinical research, have changed. For a very long time, when, for example, the infirmary was changed to a clinic, clinical research had to adhere to what's called the handshake rule, the handshake between a clinician and a patient. And if there was no physical contact, then any form of scientific investigation was not gauged or determined as clinical research. All that's changed. As of January 2019, any contact between any investigator of any kind and any material, anything derived from a person, is called clinical research. And so overnight, the amount of clinical research being done at MIT has exploded. Now, in the last year, the COVID pandemic has provided opportunities, challenges, and exposed the human subject research needs that are unique to MIT. We have been on the forefront of providing really the world, in particular the United States and specifically New England, with access to protective equipment, to testing technologies, to best methods. By harnessing our science and our technology, our insights and our innovations to combat these pandemics. And it's now clear that there is an incredible need for us to upgrade the infrastructure that supports human sciences. What we have done at the highest levels of MIT is to propose with MIT Medical, with the MIT IRB, Institutional Review Board, Committee on Use of Humans in Experimental Science, and the data compliance offices at MIT, that the 4 of us group together to upgrade the Clinical Research Center into the Center for Clinical and Translational Research to keep human subjects and our community safe, to enable MIT to comply with regulations and best practice, and to bring about the infrastructure. Here are the 4 pillars of human research at MIT, and they're all equal partners. And it's recognized that the Clinical Translational Research Center embraces all of human sciences research, but not everything that all of these people do. So for example, CUIS has a completely separate element that deals with many of the social aspects. Data security has that aspect of what it does for bringing not only human subjects data to MIT, but very many other forms of data. And MIT Medical serves our entire community, our entire extended community. The goal of what we're going to present to you today is to ensure the highest safety for human subjects science and to foster collaborations within our academic units, within the clinics, within industry, and to our partners. Next slide, please. I'm going to pass this now over to Dr. Ricciardi, who will tell you all the incredibly exciting things that are going on, all the things that we have worked so hard to make available to you, and hope that you will use and seek us out as we go forward. Dr. Ricciardi.
Thank you, Elazer. So who I am, just so you know, is that I am the Director of Clinical Operations of the Clinical Research Center. I am a nurse by trade, a nurse practitioner, and I've been at MIT for 15 years. And I worked when we were in an old building over in E18, E19, and we had a very large facility at that point. And then due to many funding changes and funding cuts, we actually were able to join IMES, which made perfect sense. But unfortunately, funding had changed. So for the last 10 years, we've been growing our program and changing it and really listening to our faculty, new faculty, emerging junior faculty, et cetera, and really trying to think about what is the best way to meet your research needs and to try to keep your research within the bounds of MIT for many reasons, to really get it to a stage that you could reach out to academic medical centers, collaborators, or startup companies. And so that's why we are here to really serve you and to make sure that the people that you want to have participate in your research are protected as well. So this is, oops, sorry. I'm just going to bring you to some slides showing us. So this is showing you what we had and where we're going with, but I have some better slides to really think about what we need. Elazer likes to say, and I think this is so true, is that the trend of medicine and science is really turning the hospital inside out. And what does that mean? It's like flipping a classroom. We want to focus on healthiness and health and not illness, because really that's what across the globe needs. And we're looking for health and wellness and for people to survive being healthy and well. And this is part of the community and ambulatory health and not in the acute care facilities. We do not provide clinical care in the Clinical Research Center, but we provide clinical research care and oversight. So where are we located? So again, our name has changed, and I keep going back from the CRC and the CTRC because we haven't officially changed our name yet, but it will be. Well, right now we're expanding 2 floors. We've just completed some renovations of the first floor and second floor, and we're really very excited to start to see how these resources can really promote your research. So in the first floor, we call that the gateway. We have an innovation center, a motion capture room. We have private dressing rooms. That sounds crazy even to say it, but across MIT, really, do you have private dressing rooms for your research participants? Probably not. We do have a workshop. And everything we have is reconfigurable and very flexible. And on the second floor, again, we've got 4 what we call testing rooms. Every room is equipped with room darkening shades to meet your needs of various research. Privacy is our utmost importance to us for the research participant. And we do have a processing lab where we can process various samples, blood samples, or other specimens from humans. We have a private restroom, and we also have a shower for our participants as well. And we have an observation room. And I'll talk more about that. So where is it? We're actually, again, on E25 on the first floor and the second floor. We are an MIT core facility, and we support every aspect of human research. And so we actually try to support your work from the time you have the idea all the way through the lifespan of the project to completion. And many times I see the same researchers come back to do the next iteration of their project after maybe they've created a device and they've now, it's because it is such an iterative process that they've now improved it, and they need to rerun their project, or they want to enhance their project. So why use the CRC? So first of all, because it's a clinical research center, we have experienced clinicians. I myself have been a clinician for many, many years, so I bring to this practice here not just my research experience, but also my hands-on clinical experience in acute medical centers as well as in home care, and then of course in clinical research. We can see research participants either on site in our new facility, but we also have what we call the Travel Research Nurse program. So if you happen to have a device that you can't possibly move for a variety of reasons over to our center, we can actually go to you and help you out there. And we've done that quite often across campus over the years. You would have access to a variety of physiological monitoring sensors that we have, and that can be used. We also have standard of care medical equipment that you can compare them to. And it's very safe and secure facility. It is card key access, and we really have, again, very protective of our human subjects. And we have a variety of services to meet your needs. And honestly, we're only hampered by our imagination. So if there's something you really need to do, we work with you to see how we can help you do it and to facilitate that. This is just a snapshot over the next couple slides of all the different services that we do offer. So first of all, as I said, we have experienced, BLS certified clinical research nurses and nurse practitioner and physician. We also have ample access to MIT medical and also academic medical centers for clinical specialists if you need them to consult. We have a partner with Tufts. They have a clinical translational science institute, and we have become one of their partners. And what that has done is it affords our entire MIT community access to their extensive research resources. And we can also find collaborators for you if that's what you're looking for. We make sure that our infection control practices are always up to the latest CDC guidelines, which is incredibly important now in the land of COVID. And we create standard operating procedures for absolutely anything that's being performed in the CRC. And that also goes in accordance with good clinical practice. So if you were to use our facility, we are a GCP facility. We provide protocol consultation. If you have an idea for a protocol, you've never done human research before, you can come to us. We can talk through it with you to see what do you really want to study, what kind of tools are already out there so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And then we can really help you with your design, how many research participants you may need, what this is going to look like, how do you even write an IRB or your protocol to submit for approval. We also have device design consultation through Dr. Anthony's group. He has joined us recently to really help to promote this aspect of our program. So he can consult with you on device and algorithm design and regulatory support, and also you're designing your pilot study of your novel device. We are performing third-party consenting, and what I mean by that is, so CUI's recently has mandated that anyone who is trying to enroll participants from their lab to avoid the appearance of any impropriety or coercion, they want a third-party person to consent to make sure people don't feel unduly coerced. Again, we're trying to protect our students and our research participant population. So we provide that for them. CUIs oftentimes will say, contact the CRC, they can help you out. And what that means is we try to do contactless consenting for you. We use Zoom or other platforms, and we use an electronic consent process where we can. And in the future, we can also do in-person consentings. And we also have a HIPAA compliant electronic database. And that's called an EDC. It's a capturing system. And what that is, it's a REDCap database, which we've had on campus in the past, but it had never been HIPAA compliant before. So with the help of BCS and ourselves, we're standing up this totally HIPAA compliant database, and all of the data is stored on AWS in their highest level of security. And we can talk through people, we can provide access to this, and we also provide access to templates that we've created to help you capture your research data. Other services, as you can see, we collect all types of human specimens, whether it's blood through phlebotomy, mucus, saliva, you name it, we can collect it for you, we can process it for you, we can ship it if it needs to be shipped, we can send it out to clinical labs if that needs to be done. And we're also offering some short-term specimen storage, -20 or -80 freezer, which has really been incredibly helpful to our researchers. Occasionally we do drug studies. So we don't do phase 1 studies. That means novel drugs that's never been tested, or phase 2 for safety. Predominantly, we would do phase 3 studies or phase 4 post-marketing, and that's a case-by-case basis. And these would be studies that the risk is quite low. Because we're not an academic medical center, we want to make sure that we're not creating undue risk and harm to people that are coming into the clinical research center, providing them with various novel drugs and other types of injectables or inhalables and ingestibles. We instrument your participants for you. This is very helpful, especially when you're instrumenting various body parts that, especially if you have a lab mate, who wants their lab mate to be able to, just about see them naked. That's probably never a good thing. So we can do all that for you. And then safely and soundly. And so there, again, there's no appearance of impropriety from student to student, or from researcher to students, or to research participants. So we really would like people to be able to use us for that very specific purpose. The research nurse that I work with, Tatiana Ehrman, she came through MIT as far as working here in animal labs, and then she went on to nursing school. And she has a master's in nursing, and she's very experienced in research practices with animals as well as humans, and as I am. So this is very helpful because as nurses, people do trust us, and they know we're going to have the utmost confidentiality just because of our practice and our licensure, and that we're going to absolutely protect them, because that is our job. We are patient advocates first, people advocates first, before we do anything else. We also monitor all of our research participants for any type of adverse event. And I mean from a reaction to the tape you might have used, the adhesive, maybe to a slight burn from an electrical component you have, all the way through adverse events or side effects from an ingestible that we've given them, to anything else. So we do monitor them monitor the research participant for that. And the other thing we're here for, so if there is some incidental finding that you as non-clinicians that you really should not be speaking to with a participant, we can talk to them and we can advise them to seek medical help and explain it in a way that would be non-threatening for them. And then, and again, anything else you think you may need that we haven't covered here, we can certainly try to help you with those needs. So this right now is our facility. You can see the first floor, and you can see in red is conference rooms down there that belong actually to the VPR that we have access to, as well as anyone else would have access to them as well. And they're completely outfitted with state-of-the-art video conferencing and monitors. And so it's a very, very nice room. They also have Zoom room. They're Zoom room equipped for various projects that people need. We also have what we call a subject gateway where people come in. We will have a waiting area, reception, and then we have this big collaboration hub here in the center. And what this means is that you can use it for a variety of reasons. So if we want to use it as a pitch room, if you want to come in with your whole team and tell us about your project, we have monitors there. We have whiteboards there that you can sketch things out, and maybe we can help you and also help with your design, user interface, et cetera. And then the other thing that we have not had before the facility is a motion capture lab that's being set up now as we speak. It's going to be equipped with Qualsys motion capture cameras. We have 4 force plates there. We have a safety harness that's very easy to access. We have a private dressing room. We will have a treadmill there, and our computer floor is we can remove any of the panels in the floor that if you have novel sensors that you want to implant in the floor, that you can use there. And then we do have a fully equipped workshop. This is not a makerspace. This is really for iterative process of design for your particular research project. The other space we have on the second floor, and I'll show you more, and this is the first floor, by the way. We don't have furniture in there yet. This is the pitch room innovation space, as I said, with big monitors, whiteboards, et cetera. And we also have a Microsoft hub that we can move around place to place. That is an interactive whiteboard and also for video conferencing, et cetera. So, and this is the motion capture lab, as you can see, and this is the actual facility. We also have a movable monitor as well. And these are the force plates here. This is where the harness goes side to side and back and forth. And it's very easy to access. You can just reach up and get it. I know there are harnesses on campus that become much more difficult to use. And this is what the Qualys cameras look like, et cetera. If in case you're interested in what the force plates are, here's all the technical information on them. But we have inserted four force plates have been installed at this point, and they're essentially meant to be plug and play technology. And then we also, and these are these very specific ones that we have now have available. And the Qualys cameras, as you can see, the rail mount goes all the way around the space, and that's where the we'll have 12 cameras, and they're all daisy chain linked all around the space. We have 2 of the micro-synchronized video cameras on tripods that are also put in the space. So you can see that it will be a very robust motion capture area. This is the workshop we have. Again, none of our equipment's set up. I'm giving you like just finishing. We're waiting for the space to be handed over to us from the construction team, but you can see that it's sizable, and we will have this fully equipped, including a nice new 3D printer that we've just purchased as well as all these other instruments here on the side. And there's probably more than that as well. That's just what I have been able to uncover. We have everything still packed, so you have to, I'm apologizing for that. We are setting it up within the next week. And this is the second floor, just as a snapshot where you are. You're in E25, you go up the stairs, and then as soon as you get up to the stairs on the second floor is where our space begins. And you enter here, and there's an internal corridor that goes all the way down to all our testing rooms. And this in here also has, is laser enabled as well, that Dr. Anthony can talk about. And then we also here have this observation room, because we will have cameras set up here, and that people can then go into the observation room if they have CUI's approval to be able to monitor and to observe the studies going on and taking place. This is particularly helpful in brain and cog size studies, but also when we have many students involved that really want to see how the equipment's working. And it's too imposing upon a research participant to have like 6 people standing around them. So in the second floor, this is the area I'm talking about. So this here, it's one big, large open space, and this is essentially 3 testing rooms. And I'll show you other pictures of that as well. We have movable doors that go in between the testing rooms, so we can have 3 testing rooms there that are accessible internally. This is the lab processing area. What's nice about this is on this side over here is a testing room, and then this is a window that goes right into the processing lab. That was, we obtain specimens, we can just hand them right through the window. And so this again is the flex space, and this is the modular setting of that we can have to block off the rooms. And each side of these are all equipped with whiteboards as well, because we find when we're doing a lot of the device work and all of the other work, it's nice to have the investigator jot things down if they need to on a whiteboard, if they can't capture it, or just to remind them of the various steps. We use a lot of checklists when we're doing our protocol to make sure they're reproducible. And then we also have easy access and storage. That this is, I know everyone always hears me, they laugh. I'm so proud of this, I can't even tell you. I'm so happy that I have these garage doors that I can get into an ample storage room. And what that does, we have these garage door access from inside, where we're seeing research participants, so we can access large equipment, or as a researcher, you can store your equipment in there. Say you're coming in and all of a sudden you had a hiatus in your protocol, running your protocol, because you have to redesign some equipment, but you already had brought over large equipment. We're not going to make you bring this back over to your lab. You can store it with us for a short-term basis. This also provides emergency access as well, because we also have a garage door access from the exterior door corridor on E25, so we can have large equipment delivered. But we also, if we had any emergency, if we needed to call EMTs or whatever, they can get in very easily through that side. And again, large equipment access, and we have multiple outlets everywhere to keep all your electricals plugged in as needed. So just some examples of what are the types of things we've done in the past and that we have ongoing. So for right now, just as an idea of some collaboration that the CRC is actually performing as we're all co-investigators, the CRC, as well as MIT Medical, and this is the COVID surveillance study. And the reason why this came about was, as we know, we have this pandemic happening, and we had the first positive MIT case of COVID in the community in March of 2020. And then we realized very quickly that MIT Medical realized that we really need to start capturing this. We need to see about how can we avoid the same types of things that happen on cruise ships. How can we avoid quick dissemination of infection and viruses and the pandemic within our community? So we wanted to set up a study that we could try to prevent and also monitor any of infection spread on campus. So in very quick order, you can see it was like 4 or 5 days that we wrote the protocol, we sent it to CUIs, they fast tracked it, and they approved it all within several days. And even today, this is still an ongoing collaboration. Brian's group joined us very shortly after to look at contactless physiological monitoring, and also with the swabbing trailers, et cetera. And so this has been a multi-stakeholder project. We're also working with Lincoln Labs in using other devices and wearables, and they're looking at various algorithms to predict infections before symptoms happen. So it's a very key collaboration. So this is just an example of the type of things that we do. You can see this was the initial study question to understand the pandemic and what was causing infection. And then what our hypothesis was, and again, it was more about looking really at the cruise ship, thinking about living and working in a college residence as akin to like a cruise ship or close quarters, and see what we could do. So we also perform many, many device studies, and this is just a few ideas we had. We've done multiple laser spectroscopy glucose monitoring over many years. And we started this when I talk about large equipment. When we first started performing the laser spectroscopy studies, it was a very, very big piece of equipment. And then it got smaller and smaller, and we adapted the whole CRC at that time to meet their needs. We also were instrumental in performing the needleless injectable device study. And that was also a study that was conducted over in Building 3. And we worked with the team there, and I would go over to their lab because they couldn't move the device at that time. Brain stimulation studies we've conducted within the CRC, and we've also conducted them over in Brain and Cog Sci, and we're there really to help monitor the research participant, because there is a rare side effect, but there is a side effect of seizures that could happen. So we could be there in the event of a seizure, so we could promptly respond. There's also an Alzheimer intervention study that we're working with over at BCS. Again, we go over there, we take blood, we do assessments of the research participants, and then a variety of physiological monitoring devices, mostly novel devices that we've tested against standard of care equipment within the CRC. And again, here's some other studies with Brain and Cog Sci. And I don't know if any of you have seen NOVA, or many years ago, there was a study on HM, and this was a very famous study looking at short-term memory and how do you form short-term memories. This study started, I believe, in the late 60s, early 70s at MIT, and it went across decades following this gentleman from the time I believe he was in his 20s, where he had brain surgery to help correct epilepsy, but unfortunately it left him unable to create short-term memories. So they followed him for many years. This was by Dr. Corkin. It's a very famous study. And as I said, he was seen probably at least 30 years. And this was pre-IRB, by the way, when you would just have letters saying, oh, sure, he can participate, all the way to attorneys. We have the original letters from the attorneys, but he was living in a long-term care facility. So it's very interesting historically, and just on how human research evolved on the MIT campus. We also have done several studies in autism, looking at the GABAergic pathway by administering various drugs, and also looking at binocular rivalry in that. And we, again, worked in MEG, given intranasal oxytocin. That was kind of a hot topic for many years with the Department of Defense. If you know anything about intranasal oxytocin, they called it the love drug or the trust drug. So we were looking at a variety of responses to that. Stress-induced cortisol studies, where we would take cortisol levels in the blood and saliva, and then a variety of other things we've done. We've worked with Media Lab for many studies. We've worked with CEHS on DNA damage and procuring blood samples for them. We've worked with CEHS in providing and exploring genetic education and evaluating their educational platforms with healthcare providers, particularly nurses. We've also done many probiotic studies. We've worked with Aero, Astro, and many others. Industry related, we're really just starting to be able to work with industry a little more closely as far as performing some of the work that they need to be done in their proof of concept studies. Because we're a core facility, we do have a mechanism now that industry can come in and use our facilities. An example of that, there was just last year, right before COVID, we were working with a startup called Commence Inc. And we were doing a mom and infant microbiome study where we were taking microbiome samples from the mom and the infant. And the reason why they needed to use us is because their research lab was like 15 minutes away and they needed to get the sample there fresh within 15 minutes. So we help provide them with a space that we monitor them, that we got the samples, and a lot of times they were here all day long to get various samples. Also in Open Biome, we originally did some of their early work with them, getting their Open Biome set up to see what type of blood work and sampling and that they would need to do for FDA approval. We also are now with MIT Sandbox for the undergrads. We worked with them as well. And there was an undergrad who had a company started called Renovia. So we were able to support him in obtaining blood samples because they needed fresh human blood. So we were able to obtain that for them and make sure that his research participants met the inclusion criteria they needed to make sure the blood was exactly what they needed in order to perform the research on. And then most recently, the Massachusetts Technology Collaborative, they have a Mass Digital Health Sandbox program, and this is for Massachusetts startups, and they can apply for up to a $60,000 grant. And so we're one of the designated sandboxes, which means that a startup company in Massachusetts can come to us and say, do you have the capability to perform the work we need to be done? Do you have the capability, say, for blood draws or for a variety of things? And if we say yes, then we submit a letter to them and they bring that to Mass Sandbox and they apply for the funds. And then with Mass Sandbox, they directly reimburse us for our time we're working with the lab. Right now, we're working with Luco Labs, which is an MIT startup. And they received up to a $60,000 grant so we can perform some of their proof of concept work for them. And other resources, I said, the Mass Tech Sandbox that, they love to get things from MIT. So if anyone has something, they would love to hear from you to see if they can work with you and provide you a grant. And then also we are partners, I alluded to earlier, with Tufts with their CTRC grant. That's an NIH major grant. And what we call our facility for them is the T.5 capacity in medical devices. So the clinicians from Tufts would look towards us and to you to really look at medical device capability. Did they have an idea? Are they looking for collaborators? Can we help them with a prototype? Do they already have a design? And really, what is that whole process? So Brian is helping us to lead that charge with Tufts. And again, when we have people come to us, we look to the rest of the community to see who is the best fit. And then we ask people if they would like to collaborate with the particular teams. A new program that we started is the CRC voucher program. This is a program that is being supported by the Vice President of Research that we can provide some funds to underfunded or non-funded early researchers or you don't have funding yet, you're trying to do your early proof of concept work so you can apply for an NIH grant. And so that's the type of program that we're setting up. And that would be up to a $5,000 in-kind services for these particular researchers. They would apply, and then if we can meet their needs and carry out the work for them, we would. And then this just sets them up so then when they do go on to obtain a grant and they need to do other work with us, they can just put us into their grant. So then so it really sets them up nicely for them to be able to work with us in the future. And then other things that we're doing from the team of Elazer, myself, and Brian, we're setting up educational initiatives to really promote the idea of an interdisciplinary translational research workforce, which is key. And honestly, the people that have been overlooked in this workforce, when you talk about team science, has been really our engineers. And also nurses have been overlooked as well. And they're very key people in working as making team science to really, what does that mean? How can we all work together and really expedite things to go from bench to bedside? And then we also, as you know, have done multiple COVID-related initiatives through IMES and across the campus through MECI as well. And so there have been many of those. And so with that,
Kathy, Elazer, I send you the virtual and the physical applauds here. Participants, please do send your questions or raise your hand, but let me sort of kick off with a question. It's a loaded question to try to get a little bit more sort of insight here. So say I'm a student and I am convinced that I have a new sensor. I want to use a cell phone and I'm going to monitor fatigue by listening to somebody's voice, and I'm be wearing a Fitbit, and I want to collect some data, demonstrate that I can do something related to fatigue. Am I doing human subjects research? Do I need to come to you? What do I need to do to get that started if I want to collect that data and publish it and do that?
That's a great question. And this is a question that there's a lot of confusion about, because where does an idea start and just seeing if your idea works versus what's really human research? Once you start collecting data that you want to analyze from a human, that's human research. So if you have your device that you're just seeing if it works, and you're saying, does this even work? Do I plug it in? Does it work? Then that's not human research. If I put it on myself, I just want to see if I can get a signal, that's not human research. But once you start collecting that data and that you're looking to start to analyze it, then that becomes human research. This is where actually researchers kind of get into a little trouble, because they start using all their lab mates, advisors start using the people in their lab, and there potentially is a little coercion involved. So once you get to that point that you need more and more people, you're better off writing a research project and really just making sure that it goes through the IRB. Now, you might have a question and that you're not sure it needs to go to the IRB. I have to tell you, CUIs, they are incredibly approachable. They're very willing to answer your questions. They really are wonderful. And I have to say, our IRB on campus, you won't find a better one across the academic medical centers. They're much more difficult to get. We actually have real life people that are going to answer your questions. And if you're not sure at all even where to start, you can just reach out and give me a call, send me an email. I can, meet you in Zoom or on the phone and just kind of walk you through things and who the people are. So never hesitate just to reach out, and no question is silly and no question is dumb. So please just reach out, because we're really here to help you.
Great, thank you, Kathy. So one of the questions in the Q&A, do you have dimensions of the motion capture space, parallel and perpendicular to the line of the 4 force plates? So very specific question here. I'm not sure if the vertex, I can put up the slideshow again, and I have to say, I don't know off the top of my head, but I may have that information in here. So let me just
I think the best thing for a question like this is just send us what you need and we'll answer it offline.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, it's a relatively big space. There's plenty of space. It's probably, the room itself is probably 30 by 20 at minimum, and then the force plates run down the center of it, if I recall correctly.
They do.
Give you some rough dimension.
Yeah, there's 4 force plates and they're offset. So, and then the other thing about this particular room, because it's a large space room and we have big doors and we have access to it, we can move a bed in there if we needed to. We could move a couch in there. We could simulate a living space and then have people like stand up and down from couches, etc. So we can do a variety of different things and set it up. But if you're really interested in that, first of all, if you're using force plates or you want to use them, please come and see me, because I would love to hear your ideas on how you would like to use it, and we can see if we can meet your needs and be setting it up to meet your needs.
Great, thank you. A question that came here in text or in chat to me. If I paraphrase, so I'm interested in algorithms, and I would like to get some access to clinical data. How can I do that? What are the resources to get access to clinical data, whether it be from MIT or the hospitals?
So this is a work in progress. This is actually it's more challenging than you would have thought. we live on data. We live at MIT on data, and gaining data from clinical partners is not simple. The simplest thing to do is, again, for you to tell us that you want it. We will work with our partners in the data compliance to make it available, but recognize that we need to adhere to the standards of the delivering rather than the recipient institution. So short answer is, be as specific as to what you need, and we can work with you to try to get you that.
Great, thank you. So one last question. What do I need to do to get started? Like, how do I'm a student, what do I do? I've never done human subjects research. Where do I go? What do I do?
So I would say reach out to me, and we can arrange to meet on Zoom, and I can go through the process, hear what your ideas are, and really kind of give you a stepwise approach in where you need to go and what you need to do. Don't spin your wheels, quite honestly, just trying to figure it out, because this is what we do all the time. And it might just be a 10-minute conversation that I can point you in the right direction. So do that first. And if I don't know, I'll certainly tell you, I don't know. And I can also put you in touch with CUIs and even be on a phone call with you to CUIs if you're not really sure how to approach them.
Yeah, I know there's another question that came in the Q&A. Teresa, if you can forward that to me, because the Q&A is not opening for me, but one that came in the chat, this is from an investigator. I'm new to NIH. I would like to get some feedback on my aims and how to submit to an NIH grant. Is that something that you can help with?
So that's a great question. And actually, the simple answer, yes, our partners can. So through Tufts, this is a great resource. So what they've done is they've made available their Bird Center. That's their, I even forgot what it stood for now, but anyway, it's called the Bird, and that's for their, they have biostatisticians that help people look at the design of their study, and it's for the purpose of applying to NIH. The other thing they do is, so if you then need statistical analysis, which really most research does, and especially if you're looking at biologics, you really want to consult with a biostatistician. Once that you have your research project, what they would have you do is, if you need their help afterwards, to put them then in the grant. And so then you can have their services afterwards, but to consult with them is free. And so if you want that or need that, I'm happy to, you know, make that work for you and to reach out to the appropriate people with you.
Great, thank you. One last question. Could the CRC help in collecting human participants for an IRB approved experiment that I have planned?
Yeah, you know it. That's what we do. That's what we live for.
Excellent. Kathy, or Dr. Ricciardi, Dr. Edelman, Elazer and Kathy, thank you very much for the very captivating and informative discussion. Participants and subject, or sort of attendees, thank you for joining us. So another round of applause for Drs. Edelman and Ricciardi. So Teresa, if you can pull up our exit slide here. As per our usual, so this is the, join us next week, same time and same channel. Teresa, if you can go to the next slide we're seeing today's, yeah, there we go, excellent. So we have an alum from the department, Dr. Mufakali, who was speaking a little bit about muscle-like actuators and their implications for the real world. And one of the exciting things, or two exciting things, his work, but also this came as a recommendation. So as part of the seminar series, we want to engage the community, our students, our faculty, our collaborators on campus and off campus. So reach out, nominate yourself, nominate others, and join us next week, and same time and same channel, and everybody stay safe, have a good day, and again, thank you for joining us today. Bye, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian.